timeline, reasonable, and then responsiveness, clear communication. The filing fee, that was reasonable too because I heard from other law firms it was pretty high up in the range. Considering all of that, I went with the Sedaghat law firm. My name is Sunya. I got my PhD in sociology of language in 2020 at the University of Washington in Seattle. And then I worked as an academic for 2.5 years. And now I'm working as she's an experienced researcher in the tech industry. And I filed for the NIW. Decided to file for it because I started when I was researching on immigration options and different options to get my green card in the US, because when I was in my PhD program, I was on F1 student visa. And so once I became a full-time professional, I had to figure out what immigration path that I wanted to take on. And at first, I was trying out the H-1B option, and that was workable, acceptable, but there were some barriers that I found out along the way. And then when I first learned about the NIW, I didn't know anybody in my social cycle who did the NIW. And when I was researching online, I saw the sample NIW profiles, and the samples that I saw were from scholars who have 30 publications and who have really stellar records of academic research and reputation. And I thought, maybe at that level, I can't really compete for that. And so I thought, I needed to have a long record of publications, really make a name for myself in academia before I apply for NIW. But then later on, I did find somebody who was able to talk with me over a Zoom conversation. She was also a PhD academic, also an international student like me, and she filed for NIW with a different law firm since she's located in a different state in the US. And from directly talking with somebody that I had a personal connection with, I was like, okay, this is doable. Maybe I can look more into it. And so I started researching what kind of lawyer or law firms that I should hire, and in the process of contacting different law firms and then getting their initial review back about the plausibility of my application and how strong my profile is. Looking at the different communications that I did with the different law firms, I decided to go with the Sedaghat offices. I talked with 4 or 5 different law firms. So for different reasons, I was because in the process of getting a green card, it's not just the approval of I-140, but after that, you need to do the adjustment of status application, I-485, and that process varies from person to person depending on what is your current immigration status is. So I knew that it's not just the I-140, there's going to be other steps down the road. So I was thinking about the whole timeline, how long it's going to take. And one of the law firms that I was considering, they told me that it's going to take about maybe up to 6 months to file the I-140 application with them. And then, I will hear back in a short amount of time if I were to go with the premium processing with the USCIS. And then I did a lot of research on the Sedaghat law firm. So I had a good intuitive sense that this will be a good lawyer that I can hire and work with. Timeline, the reasonable timeline, and the responsiveness, clear communication, and then also the filing fee or the consultation fee that I paid the law firm. I thought that was reasonable too because I heard from other law firms it was pretty high up in the range. And so considering all of that, I went with the Sedaghat law firm. The one difference between the Sedaghat law firm and the other law firms, according to my understanding, is that when you file for NIW, you need recommendation letters from your quote-unquote inner cycle and then the outer cycle of people in your profession. So for those recommendation letters, it's basically you either have to write it yourself, not in an unethical way, but just so that you're not putting that burden or writing on the recommenders. But you get agreement and approval from the recommenders that everything in the letter is factually accurate, like there's no disagreement or anything like that, that they are okay with the content of the letter. So those are like a large part of preparing the I-140 application. Yeah, so the process went with initial meetings, and then afterwards, he sent me a whole list of items that need to go into my portfolio and application through Dropbox. So I just worked on each item. I sent out the materials to Dropbox. He would look at it, and if I had questions, I would ask him too. He did send me some sample recommendation letters that I can kind of pull ideas from and have a good sense of what the letter is, how it's supposed to function, right? Because it's not, I've written recommendation letters a ton of times before, but never for like a legal purpose, right? So for the legal purpose, like I needed to have a good idea of what is the genre, what is the format, what are the criteria that the letter needs to fit into. So a lot of the effort went into writing the recommendation letters. And what else? Oh yeah, the narrative about why I'm applying for NIW and how I'm qualified for it. That took time. That took some amount of time too, but that was relatively easy, I would say. But the anxiety was that you never know like what the USCIS is gonna say. Like they can reject you for any number of reasons, right? So I made the strongest case I could, but I was also, okay, this is up to them whether or not they're gonna grant approval or come back with RFE. So I was hoping that I would not get the RFE and it would just be smooth sailing and get the approval right away. The application was filed from the Sedaghat offices, and I did the premium processing because I just wanted to have a peace of mind. You do have to like throw money at the USCIS, right? That's how the office functions. The application fees from people like applicants like us. In the case that I get the RFE, I wanted to make sure that I have enough time to prepare for a rebuttal or supporting evidence to make a case for myself. So yeah, I went with premium processing, and then 2 weeks later I received very good news that it was approved. So yeah, very happy indeed. And I was surprised too that I didn't want to get my hopes up too much. So I was like, okay, in case that they come back with an RFE, especially because I don't really have a straightforward narrative, I would say, because I'm no longer working in academia. I'm not publishing for academic knowledge dissemination anymore. I'm working in the industry, but it is state related, right? So I had to make sure that that narrative is coming across as cohesive and clear. And I'm helping connect the dots for the reviewer, the judge, right, for my application. So yeah, I was surprised that in a very good way that it was approved. And yeah, very happy. When I get my green card in hand, I would say that is when I can actually like be fully relieved and feel like my life has changed, like taken a very positive turn. But for now, like it's a good reassurance that okay, my application is basically like pre-approved. Once my turn comes to apply for the green card adjustment of status, it will just be the process of like going through the motions in terms of formally filing the I-485 application and then getting it approved, hopefully. So yeah, I mean, I'm very relieved that I'm more than halfway through in the process, and then I did meet with Shawn Sedaghat. I spoke with him on the phone a couple of times for my adjustment of status application because everybody is in a different situation, right? So I needed to make sure that the path that I'm taking is well sorted out. The way that he was answering my questions and the kind of empathy that he showed me, for my case, I thought that was very admirable throughout the process. He was clear, transparent. He will answer my emails, within 24 hours. So very professionally responsive. And every time I asked a question, he was able to give me either an example, resource to look at, or some kind of like clear answer, or some kind of reference to go look at, right? So yeah, it's been very positive. The advice I would give is, I guess, for just speaking from my own experience, don't discount yourself, or don't play down your accomplishments, because that's what I did at the beginning. I didn't think that I would qualify for NIW, and the law firms that I was reaching out to, most of them said that I have a good profile, that I have a strong case, and I was like, oh, really? Okay. So it was kind of me not fully understanding the immigration options, because those are with the immigration law, unless you're working like closely in that space, you don't really have that knowledge, right? So you can't really know if you have a good chance or not. And so at the beginning, like just from online research, I thought that from the examples that I saw, I thought, oh, I needed to be at like the top 1% of my field, but that's not really the case. It is more competitive for EB1, but for NIW, I think the criteria for immigration law are changing over time too. So definitely consult with as many lawyers in your local area as possible, and then see what they say. Get their professional evaluation of your case. Make sure that you connect all the dots, like in your professional and academic educational journey. Try, kind of like shoot for the stars, and maybe something better might even happen. So you never know. But yeah, I think that kind of like self-confidence and collaboration with the different law firms, like making sure that you choose a professional, reliable lawyer, and then being thorough, being as detailed as possible, like in writing up your case. I think those are a good recipe for success, I would say. Thank you to the Sedaghat Law Firm for getting a chance to work with you. It's been a great experience, and I think that's all.